All right, hi everybody. My name is Devin Steen. This is Taylor Lenneman. We're both in the IT department for Spokane Public Schools. We're here to introduce virtual reality in the classroom. Virtual reality kind of has a lot of different moving parts to it. Currently, Taylor will let you know because he was on the initial team of setting up our virtual reality we're using now. You want to say where we have it at?
Yeah, so for the most part in Spokane Public Schools, we have it in our STEM camps, our after-school camps. We have about 3, I think, that are within some of our high schools and more of our older kids, more of the technical programs. And for the most part, I helped set up the ones that were in the after-school STEM camps, get all those calibrated and ready for the kids to use. We're trying to implement these guys to get some of the girls more interested in doing it, get some of the younger kids who don't really know what to do during the summers, things like that, get them try to kind of involved and having more fun.
So right now it's kind of just a cool toy that we're using in our after school and special programs. That's kind of where we're at right now. Where we're wanting to go is implementing it actually in the daytime classrooms. And we've kind of ran into a couple different things that we're looking at. We want a system, B, we want some technical support for that system, and C, we want the PD for our staff to know how to implement it and how to use it. And we've looked at a few different places, and so far the only one that we've actually found to have all 3 of those is Bytespeed that we're kind of working with right now. They have the system, they have the technical support, and they provide the PD for our staff. Taylor and I were tasked with kind of the task of testing the VR system. So last Friday we kind of took the whole day and we opened up several apps. Bytespeed actually left one of their systems with us, the Vive, and we opened up several different apps. Probably, what was the first one we messed with? Tilt Brush. Tilt Brush is an art one. I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but it's basically 3-dimensional paint. You jump in the VR, and as you're painting, it's 3D, and they have a lot of different textures, paints. That was one of them where we honestly didn't really have an interest in messing around with, but by the time we were done, it was probably 2 hours later. After that, we kind of messed with Google Earth, and you could take tours. One of them we set up in was a tour of different landmarks around the world. This kind of, I think the one that I liked probably the most was Rio de Janeiro. Being there, it was up on the hill, you see the city, everything, you're really kind of involved in it. This technology is pretty young right now, I would say. So there were a few snags we ran into via sensors. You have kind of 2 sensors, and the 2 were mounted initially, but they have an option to kind of separate them. So you need quite a big space to work with. I don't know what other apps were there that were kind of cool that could be implemented. There's the lab one where you can go and kind of almost dissect the body to see muscle, bone, organs. That applies to science. You can go to the solar system for astronomy and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where we're at right now, is finding the practicality to implement it actually in the classroom. And that's where Grant's going to kind of give you a rundown on his ideas and how they actually helped implement it in the classroom.
All right, thank you guys. Yeah, well, it's great to be out here. So who's already using VR in their classrooms at the moment? So got a few of you. I hope you know I'm going to be picking on you now. I saw where you're at. So, I want this to be more of a discussion almost, rather than a presentation. It is something that is really new. There's a lot of questions out there, so definitely feel free to bounce them off. I'm going to be out here all weekend. We have a booth over in the Platinum area. We're going to be actually doing demos on the Vive. So if you've done VR and maybe haven't tried the Vive or haven't done anything at all, come by, try it out. We have a bunch of different apps on there, so you can maybe try out some other ones. If you are using VR, try out some ones that that you maybe haven't looked into before. But one thing I want to make sure that you're looking for throughout this, I have little orange circles that say thought leaders. Those are what I would deem kind of key takeaways. So keep an eye out for those. But who am I? My name's Grant. I grew up in southwestern Minnesota. The reason I sound funny is because I live in Fargo. I was out on the nature walk and stuff today, so that was really neat to actually see hills. And so this is my lovely fiance. I'm going to be getting married here in October. This is my family, my sister and my parents. This is my pride and joy, a little 2-year-old daughter. I play quite a bit of softball, and she likes to come watch me play softball too. So it's after one of the tournaments. I usually play about 75 to 100 games a year. So what we're going to kind of cover a little bit is, how to use VR in the classroom, the case for it, getting into more of the consumption moving more from consumption to creation. It's a pretty big thing. A lot of times when schools are using VR, it's more on the consumption side, and it can be used in say a STEM lab or anything like that, or even a makerspace setting. I work with a number of schools that are actually using our machines to create VR content for other sections of their school. So that's a pretty neat deal that you can work on students with. Also want to talk about some keys to getting it into your school and available resources. So with that, got a key little thought leader down here. I want to start off with a video. This is a video from Foundry 10. Foundry 10 is actually a really great resource. If you've ever been looking for a place to find a treasure trove of information regarding VR, Foundry 10 is a nonprofit. It's run by a bunch of educators from all over the country. It's more of a collaborative than anything. But they came up with a lot of different ways to use VR in the classroom, such as, what does a classroom look like even? How do we design our classrooms to effectively use this new piece of technology? And what kind of impact does it have? So take a peek at this. Is the volume all the way up on this deal here?
There's that separate little sound bar. Any IT people here? Any techs?
Yeah. I guess I got my volume all the way up on here, so.
It just needs a Mac.
Yeah.
Just plug it. Have you restarted your computer yet? Have you unplugged and plugged back in? Put in a ticket, I can't help you. Yeah.
All right. Should be coming out the HDMI.
Oh, that's what it's doing.
Yeah.
Gotta change your sound.
HV.
I think you're good there. I think you just need to go.
Yeah, just on your settings on your back.
Settings are right.
Sound output for the device and headphone jack.
No, yeah, there you go.
All right, let's try this.
Yeah.
All right.
Being immersed in what you're learning motivates you to fully understand it. If I were submersed in a world that, I'm supposed to gain something from because I'm a part of that world now, I would be more inclined to understand what I'm learning or what I need to learn. And I think it would be a whole new ballpark of motivation. I think someone would want to use VR in the learning environment
like I said before too, if you have any questions and stuff, please interrupt me. I encourage them. But Foundry 10, brought up before, they're a nonprofit, but they have dedicated a lot of time to VR amongst other different pieces of technology. So why implement this new technology? A lot of times when it comes to implementing new technology, bring it up to an administrator or something like that, they're going to be like, so does it increase student engagement? How does it increase student retention? Well, the answer to both of these questions is yes. It does do both. And I don't know too many other pieces of hardware that can be used in STEM lab, STEAM lab, makerspace, differentiated learning, personal learning, and also increase student engagement and student retention. It makes learning exciting, and I want to kind of touch base on, this is just like a really hard time to be a teacher, honestly. I remember growing up, things. A lot of the gadgets we're using nowadays in schools weren't even thought up of yet, and information was a lot harder to access. Usually, you had to flip through a couple pages at least to find what you were looking for. So the idea of what a classroom even looks like is changing, and we know that students learn in different ways, and as a result, we have to learn new teaching methods. We have to adapt and figure out how we can reach each student individually, since we know that they learn in different ways. I have conversations like this in this forum here around the country, and I talk with our network of personal development trainers, and these are some pretty important objectives that I hear time and time again. So I don't want to make it sound like these are what's a one-size-fits-all thing by any means. This is definitely not the case. Each school has their own objectives, their own case uses, and things like that, and we've really tried to figure those out. So who's ever heard of Edgar Dale's cone of experience? Any takers? Okay. So Edgar Dale's cone of experience is pretty much a map of how people learn and how they retain information. And so I kind of came up with a little mnemonic device here. Tell at the top, show somewhere in the middle, do down at the bottom. Typically it would be abstract learning at the top and concrete learning close to the bottom. So you learn and then you cement it into the student's brain with concrete learning examples. A good way that you could think of this would be like, say as a teacher, you stand up in front of the class, you do your lecture, then the student goes home and reads the information again, and then they do their daily work on it, and then eventually they have a test, and that's usually where concrete learning stops. So this is a good way to build off of that. Say, for example, like VR, you can use it in trigonometry or any other class, like teach a vector dynamics, for example. A cool app called CalcFlow. You can actually watch how vector dynamics change the course of an object. And so instead of writing it down on a piece of paper and then coming up with the equation, you can actually see how the trajectory has changed, and you get a whole experience out of it instead of just looking at the paper. Another thought leader here. Don't limit a child's learning. When I was growing up, like I said, that's what learning looked like. And I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I think I'm younger than a few folks in the classroom too. Nowadays things look a little bit different. This is, I would say, an entry-level VR opportunity to bring into a school. That would be like the Google Cardboard. I would say Google Cardboard is kind of like when schools go on field trips. It's a good way to get kids interested in that particular field, and then eventually you do things that kind of build off of that. But this really matters to me a lot because of my little 2-year-old. I want to make sure that she's going to be getting prepared for a world that doesn't even exist yet. The problems that are going to be faced by her generation are going to be a lot different than the problems faced by our generation, by generations before us and other generations after us. So we need to branch out. We need to find new ways to reach those students and find new ways to impact them with new forms of technology. And that's one reason why I wanted to bring up this video. I got my little lady. I want to make sure that she gets exposed to STEM, and I think that's why this video hits so close to home for me. take away from that video? You look at the numbers and stuff here. Even take a peek around this room here. We're all technology professionals. Proof is in the pudding. A lot of times it's tough to it's tough to keep people's interest, and you look at if we can get like women, get anybody else interested in this. How do we reach these people? This is a great way to reach these people and get them interested at a young age. This is what's going to be happening in the future. This is something that they can learn from and build from and really take some key skills away from them. I mean, look at this chart here. This is most recent Bureau of Labor Statistics job projection data. It's from 2016. The brown here represents available jobs, and the blue is bachelor degrees that are awarded, yellow master's, green doctoral degrees. So one way to think about it is the blue, yellow, and green is what's being studied in college. And the brown is where the jobs are. Don't need a lot of rocket science to figure out computer science is a pretty burgeoning field. Think about when you were graduating. Even when I was graduating high school, like a big thing for me was, do you know how to use Microsoft Word? And that was like a pretty big deal. If you knew how to use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and nowadays I don't see anything that's up there right now that isn't being impacted right now by virtual reality. Social sciences, including psychology, virtual reality is being used to create empathy. It's being used to treat PTSD. There's all kinds of applications in that. Physical sciences, including environmental. You just saw in that video, a little gal was looking at how polar ice caps are melting and things like that with it. Math sciences, we talked about calculus earlier. Life sciences, there's I don't know how many applications available in that. Computer science, there's a really big growing number. You can code in VR right now if you want. So the future is here right now. It's knocking on the doorsteps. So, all right, I want VR in my classroom. Sam, I am. Now that you're all going to go back, to your boards and get funding for VR in your classroom and start a VR one-to-one. We're going to talk a little bit about how to use it in your classroom. So Foundry 10, I brought them up earlier. They've done a lot of work with creating what a virtual reality classroom looks like. I work with a number of their affiliated members and whatnot as well. And I see these case uses. Hot Seat is a lot more popular when it comes to consuming content. You have one student in the front of the class with a headset on, the rest of the class watches, and you think to yourself like, well, that's not a real cool experience. And I do these demos quite often, and it's pretty incredible watching how into it people that don't even have the headset on get into it. And I'm sure you'll see for yourself when we're doing the demos at our booth. You'll see somebody doing it, and then you'll stop and look. and then eventually you'll start offering up your 2 cents on what they should be doing. But the centers model is pretty popular, and the teamwork model is really popular. Both of these tend to be a little bit more skewed towards content creation, especially teamwork. But there's some really cool teamwork apps that are out there as well. So what's a VR classroom look like? Gentleman that has this classroom is a guy that I work with on a pretty routine basis out in New Jersey. He actually teaches game design to middle schoolers. And so in here, this is a cool little contraption. It's called the Verzoom. And so what that is pretty much an exercise bike with sensors built into it on the pedals. So as you pedal, the faster you go, more things get blurred on the side in your peripheral vision. There's some cool apps right now on their way that are going to be tying in like Google Maps, so you can go do the Tour de France in your headset. But San Antonio Public Schools has a couple of those from us in there too. Here, that's just a student using an HTC Vive. Then this is from a show that I did. That little guy in the fedora there, I think he would have been happy taking 20 more turns because he kept trying to take the headset from anybody and everybody after they got done with it. But Right over here too, on that side there. So this classroom has 25 machines in it with 25 headsets, and the students take turns creating content, grading each other's content. It's a great thing to reflect on how you arrived at the finished product. So, Lightspeed VR applications list. Like I said before, we work with a number of districts. We've done 22 rollouts in 22 states. We got 13 professional development trainers. This link is hot link to our website. We maintain a list that's continuously growing. About 75 plus apps on there right now. And those have all been vetted by us, as apps that are good to use in education. Then we list, what you can. List what subject areas they're in, and there's little hyperlinks and stuff too, so you can actually watch a little trailer teaser video of the app actually in action. But our trainers, they work in classrooms. They're telling us about what's cool, what's fresh, what they're using in their classrooms. But we also work pretty closely with HTC. HTC and Oculus Rift are probably the two, I would say, heavy hitters right now in high-end VR. HTC has, in my opinion, some better resolutions, and I think they have a little bit better support and stuff like that too, which is why we chose to partner with them as heavy as we have. But I want to touch base on a couple other things here real quick. Art is an area that's maybe taken a little bit of a hit. I know performing arts especially. You can actually do quite a bit with VR with performing arts type thing. But one thing I wanted to touch base on is like a traditional art in the sense of art supplies are expensive, and when you use them, they're done. So VR has a pretty cool place in that market because when you're using virtual reality, it's a lot cheaper to get more paint on your brush. And you can do other cool things like 3D scanners. You can import what you have on your 3D scanner right into the virtual reality world. So if you're working with younger kids, they can bring their Spider-Man figurine in, set it on top of the 3D scanner, and then they can walk into Angkor Wat and visit their little Spider-Man sitting on one of the tables there or something. So one of the other ones, we brought up Tilt Brush. Is anybody here? I saw a couple people nodding their heads already with Tilt Brush. So if you haven't, Tilt Brush is I'd say one of the must-try apps on VR. Pretty easy to see why Taylor and Devin burnt as much time as they did using it.
It's literally just like that video.
So we did a cool project with the local school district. We work with a lot of rural school districts and whatnot up in North Dakota. I think the whole state's rural. We worked with the local school district. They had never done anything like this before. And no cardboard, anything like that. We had an art teacher that was a real go-getter, wanted to try it out, reached out to us because they found out what we did. So we brought our virtual reality solution out to them. It was a fifth grade classroom, and they were doing a chapter on art, or they were focusing on art. And it was pretty neat because what she did actually, after we left, she did a survey with her students just to ask them what their thoughts were about using VR. There's 20 kids in the class, and that was the whole grade. So there's 20 kids in the class, and only one person was in the headset at a time. It was pretty wild watching well, fifth graders usually act up anyways, but they're a little more rambunctious than usual watching their classmate use VR. But these are their thoughts and matched up on them with their headsets. So, pretty cool. So I can't really not bring up content creation. It's another thought leader here. But I'm just going to kind of skim over it a little bit. I could talk about it for a whole nother presentation. So there's just quite a few apps. Over to the left, that's something that we all learned, scientific method. And over here, this is the iterative design process. I was integrated mass communications major for a little while in college, and this is something that I learned. And so when students are creating content, what they're learning is skills that are portable. They're learning coding. They're learning graphic design. They're learning project management. So these are all skills that people right now that are hiring managers are looking for. These are all skills that are going to carry their interest into other fields. And I brought up that teamwork design earlier for a classroom model. So these three little guys here, they're all designing a little maze type course. And there's other classmates are going to be going through their maze that they're working on together. They're all working on a little different section of the maze using Unity, which is an app that I'm going to touch on here in a second. Minecraft, so who's using Minecraft anyhow, anywhere in the school? Quite a few? Yeah. So Minecraft VR, there you see them, they're using the Samsung Gear, but Minecraft can be used, you can actually design your world in Minecraft, go into your world inside your headset and go wander around your world. You can actually do some really cool things with it, like creating 360 videos. Well, technical difficulties. But there, if you've ever watched a 360 video on YouTube, you can pan around the area and whatnot. So you can go inside your Minecraft world and create YouTube videos. Steve Isaacs, the guy that I brought up out in New Jersey, the guy that's probably like the top ranked or top watched YouTube channel for making the YouTube 360 videos of Minecraft, had a chat with his classroom. And Steve's really big into Minecraft, so that's probably how he pulled some strings. He does all the Minefair stuff, if anybody's ever heard of Minefair or been to Minefair. I brought up Unity. Unity is one of the kind of more complex content creation apps. So right here, you can look at that map. It's a game map. Student created that game map. They textured it. Came up with the design of it, and then you can see he came up with the hills. And what it was is it's actually a little off-road race course for a little VR cart that you have to steer around with your handheld controllers. And you get really detailed in it. Like you even have to come up with tire design. And you can do some other really cool things with Unity. I worked with another gentleman out in Ohio. One of his students wasn't really getting it as far as, hey, I don't know what I want to do for direction in my life kind of thing. He had somewhat of an interest in computers, but it wasn't anything that was real, didn't have any real conviction on it. And he got down, he started creating a video on it. One thing he really did like was cars. And so he actually made a VR app to train other students how to properly change a tire. And he got really into it. He ended up actually getting a pretty cool little scholarship to Purdue to develop some VR apps. But this is one way about going about it. You can have your students reflect on it. So right over there, this is actually all done by a 7th grade student. So there's not a lot of age restrictions on VR, especially when it even comes to content creation. This is where you can go with Unity. So this is what an interface kind of looks like, and this is something that if you've been doing it for a couple of years, you'd have no problem doing that. So this could easily be one of your high school students creating something like that. Another really cool one is No Limits Coaster. So No Limits Coaster is a great way to teach physics because you can go through the course and it'll tell you like lateral G's, positive G's, everything like that. You can learn all about how trajectory works and things like that. You actually have to design things just like you're doing a little CAD drawing. But one of the guys I work with, the students made this video, and so it took the kid 3 months. It's a 7th grade student, and this is what he made. It's a video that he synced up with all the roller coasters that he was on his coaster. And eventually, you can, if I keep scrolling on the video, you can see what it's like to actually go on some of these different coasters. So like right here. All right. So before we have to take a break or anything like that, want to get into another cool one. This is Rube Goldberg Machines. Anybody ever do any Rube Goldberg Machines? Okay. So it's a really great way to learn kinetic energy. You can make these in VR and you can watch how it goes, and you have to design it and everything like that. So it's a great way to, teach problem solving, teach kinetic energy. The big thing that I want to really kind of get in here is there's a number of apps that are available out there, and it doesn't take a lot of outside-the-box thinking to figure out how to incorporate it into curriculum. And that's one of the cool things that we really work at here. Like you can do like Tinkercad, where you can create a 3D model like that castle and then import it into another app like Unity or any other app, and then actually go in and experience what you just designed in CAD. So this would be a great way to offer something that's, if you're already doing any type of CAD or engineering type stuff at your school, this would be a great augment to it. And that's the big thing. I mean, VR is not here to steal anyone's thunder. It's here to augment it and maybe throw a little bit of lightning into that thunder. So 3D Sunshine, anybody played Mario Brothers? Probably recognize those little question mark blocks. So 3D Sunshine, you can steal game elements from other like popular classic video games and make your own little kind of hodgepodge world. But Taylor and Devin brought up the PD aspect of things. We do a lot of different PD, from SCCM training on down, but this has been by far our most popular professional development offering. So the big thing that we do is we work with 13 trainers. They're scattered around the country. They're all professional educators at the high school or collegiate level or middle school. But PD training is important, though. If you're going to be implementing anything like this, I highly recommend it because it keeps these cool contraptions from ending up in your technology graveyard. If you're wondering if you have a technology graveyard, it's anything that's ever thought of that was cool by your administrators or teachers or you yourself that never really got full adoption and it's sitting somewhere collecting dust. So the big thing with PD is we want this to set your teachers up for success when it comes to adoption into the classroom. And what we do too is we try to design our PD to be programmatic. So when you say, hey, we want to put VR into our school, okay, cool. What do you have a department that you'd like to try to focus on first? Okay, yeah, you want to work with your history and your social studies department. Okay, we can definitely do that. And we do this because it helps kind of narrow the training down. That way we can look at one area of curriculum and be like, okay, looks like you're going to be doing a chapter on Gettysburg. That'd be a perfect spot to actually go to Gettysburg. And you can actually go into, like using VR, you can go see what it's like to be out on the Gettysburg battlefield, have people yelling at you, and cannons blasting, and see all the gun smoke, everything like that. So having an experience like that would be a great way to cement the understanding of what Gettysburg was like. But like I said, we try to focus on one specific core area. Reason being is because then it's a little bit easier to measure the impact. Because that's going to be a question that comes whenever you spend a chunk of change on this kind of stuff. Somebody's going to be like, okay, well, it's cool. How did it work? And before we get too much into this, let's make sure that it's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. And that's a great way to do it if you narrow the focus a little bit instead of like an administrator wanting something like, well, our SAT scores as a whole went up by 40 points because our students use VR for 10 minutes a day. It's not going to be that easy. It'd be great if it was, but the big thing that you're going to see is an increase in student engagement within that core area. You're going to see students You know, one thing that we really see is higher attendance in classes. Usually, schools that we work with, it's like a punishment almost. If students are acting up, they don't get to use the VR. So that's one way to drive student engagement. But so I want it. How can I get my school to support it? The big thing is experience it. Devin told me that earlier today, like the big thing was I needed to actually experience it. To experience it fully, then it takes on a whole other meaning than just hearing about it. And it's true. About a year and a half ago, I'd never done anything with VR. I really got into it. I was already, I played quite a few video games and stuff over the years, so it's like an easy transition to pick up. It was a really cool experience to learn all the things about VR and build off of it. But another cool thing too is these computers are able to be used for way more than just VR. You can use them in CAD classrooms, engineering classrooms, media production classrooms. You name it, you can build it from. So this is our PD bundle, and this is actually one of our cool offerings. This is what Spokane is using from us. This is our VR cart. So the VR cart, it's a cool little setup there. It comes with the Vive, the desktop, everything that you need. And all you have to do is wheel it from one class to the next and plug in the power cord and it's ready to rest. So, they brought up before, we're the only ones that offer the hardware, the professional support, professional consulting, and we help with any of the deployments, anything like that. We're here to help. We've done K-12 deployments, like I said, in 22 states. We're recognized by HTC as being a national implementation leader. So we have done this before. We know what works. We know what works for funding and stuff like that as well. We've seen what pools people have pulled from in the past. We can be a great resource if you're wondering how to use it, like how to use funding for it. We can help with grant writing. And as far as other things like white gloving, that's always been our motto, is helping make technology easy. So when it comes to the professional development, what it is we actually send one of our trainers on site to your school district for one full day of on-site PD. You have all kinds of time before that to actually correspond and be like, we're really looking at doing it with this curriculum and that and whatnot. So that way when they come, they're ready to go and they're not helping you set things up, because we can help you set stuff up over the phone before the trainer gets there. Any questions at all about any of this stuff, definitely let me know. But the big thing here, I got another thought leader down here. Hope you're keeping track of those. But VR makes what's currently impossible possible. I don't want to sound like I'm throwing out a pile of hyperbole here, but it definitely has an impact when it comes to education. There's no doubt about it. And this video kind of really drives things home here. pretty cool little video there. Cool little takeaway too. Here's the Elton John playing in the back. If there's any Elton John fans, you can actually go on stage with Elton John. Elton John is a very big backer of virtual reality, not just for investment, but by offering up experiences. So Elton John's had quite a few legendary performances over the years, like say the 75 Dodger Stadium. You can actually put on the headset and be right up on stage next to Elton John. There's a lot of cool things that are happening with it. It's changing the way people consume content. Just not that long ago, there was a horse race where they mounted some wireless access points around the racetrack. They had mounted a GoPro 360 onto the jockey's helmet, and then they had a live 360 video stream where if you had the virtual reality headset, you were sitting on top of that horse. And it really worked out well for him because the horse that they picked to do that to ended up winning the race, and I don't know. I think that was purely coincidence, but
All the epic jockeys.
yeah. So I just think the future is here when it comes to that as well. I think about if they're doing it for horse racing, there's quite a few more kids. There are quite a few kids that grow up wanting to be Tom Brady. Not as many that are grow up wanting to be jockeys. Nothing against those guys, but if you can put it on top of a football player's helmet to offer that viewpoint, I think that would be a pretty big game changer. But so what are your resources? I've brought up Foundry 10. Bytespeed, we have a plethora of information. We actually just started a blog with all of our trainers, and we're going to be having content from our trainers that are educators, and we're also going to be having content posted on our blog from schools that are already using what we're using. What's working for them in their classroom? What kind of direction do they see VR going in their school district? And they're going to be sharing that information on our blog post, or our blog here. But we have a knowledge base on there already, like our apps and whatnot that we have listed. So definitely check those out. Another great resource, call me. This is my line at work. It's my direct line. So if you have any questions about what's working, what you could use, definitely give me a shout. I work with schools in Washington, Michigan, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and D.C. So I was talking to Kyle about it earlier. He was asking me about so how did you guys arrive at that? You just throw darts at a map and stuff? And it was like, yeah, and we had bad aim too. So, but yeah, I work with a lot of schools in different places, so definitely be a good resource for you too. But with that, I want to open the floor up to questions for me, for the Spokane guys, anything like that at all. So. Yeah.
Get teachers to buy into that by giving them a demonstration and saying, history teachers, here's some great content, or how do you get them interested in it to say, possibly there's one more thing you might do?
We're working on it. So Grant can probably tell you, he kind of presented this to us in our boardroom with a lot of the higher ups making their decisions to implement this, and they didn't want to try it. So it's almost, you have to force them to put it on and actually see what they can do with it. Really, doing it's the only way. I mean, listening to the presentation, you get maybe 25% of the experience. Watching somebody else is maybe 50, 75%. But really putting on the headset and actually doing it, that's the whole thing. But I think we've had some pretty good luck with our teachers that run STEM.
Yeah.
Taylor's been involved a lot more with that than I have.
It's a big contributing factor to our after-school activities. A lot of people want to come try it out, see what it's like, see what the VR reality could be in the future, all that different type of stuff. We've got a lot of step up with kids wanting to actually show up. These STEM camps, we've got to open up more schools, more headsets, more things like that, because more kids are getting involved. They want to be a part of it. They want to see what it's like. So I think just getting some of the teachers in to try on the headsets, look like a dork with it on for a while, see what it's like. I really think it'd make a difference for them. I think that would definitely help them see what it could be like and what it could be.
And with those after-school programs, the teachers actually have more options to implement it into their curriculum themselves, and the teachers then go on and pass that on to other teachers that might be interested.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking for, was what little specific tidbit can you was successful
Right.
getting, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, lot of times, a big factor in this getting into schools is finding that one real go-getter teacher that's going to champion it. Teacher conferences are a big one. We go to quite a few of those for that specific reason. We need to offer up the experience more so to, broaden the exposure, so to speak. Because, like what Devin was saying, you got to try it out. You got to put it on, and that's what really drives it.
Yeah, and I mean, even with the Dope Rush, I guess I didn't see how it could be incorporated into like an art classroom. When I got in there and started painting, they even have demos where you go and you can select a elaborate art piece that somebody's done, and you can watch each stroke that they make creating it. So essentially what you could do is upload that to your teacher. Teacher would then put on a VR headset and watch you create it stroke by stroke.
More questions?
Cost.
Okay. You don't pull any punches, do you? Actually, it's a pretty big surprise to most people. It's not actually that cost prohibitive. So when you look at a headset, a headset is going to be $500. Then when you look at the machine to power it, typical build for us, like our standard build is an i5, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 1060 GTX. So you're looking at about like anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500, depending what you want to do for drive options and things like that. If you want to make it really pretty with flashing lights and things like that. But I would say you could get a full setup, where you can offer it. If you wanted to try it out for about $2,000. If you're looking for like the cart option, like what we brought up, you're going to be looking probably more so around like the 3,200 range. A lot of that stuff is dependent on how high Bitcoin price is. Yeah, it's like in the last about year and a half, we've seen our video card prices double. So, but you're in the market for one of these right now is actually a pretty decent time because prices on the graphics cards have dropped probably about 25% in the last month and a half. So, yeah, content, I would say about 85% of the apps that are available right now are going to be under $20. And when you buy them, you own them. You don't have any continuing costs. You buy that app for that Steam account. So when you have a Steam account on that machine, you'll download the content onto that machine. But you can also migrate that Steam account to another machine. You just have to re-download things. So only one person can access that at a time using that account is how the model works on there. But I would say the other 15% of the apps that are out there, the highest priced one that I've seen that's commonly used is $40, and that's Organon. That's a pretty robust app where you can get right down to every last little nerve inside of an eyeball and it'll tell you exactly what it's going to do. The nice thing too is there's a lot of free apps, especially in the education world. So if you rewind about a year and a half, even like when I first started getting into this stuff, I would say the apps were in the mid-hundreds. And now I would say you're getting into the mid-single-digit thousands. Like probably around like 4,000 to 5,000. So it's blowing up. I think it was by 2022. It's like virtual reality training programs. Like you can actually design those programs. It's about to be a $7 billion a year industry. Right now, it's currently sitting at just under 2. So it's a lot of opportunity there. It's a great way to get your students interested in something like that before they go to college, because that's going to be something that's going to be real relevant by the time they graduate.
Is it one VR device per machine, or can you do multiple VRs per machine?
Right now, the lion's share of stuff that we would like, what you can get from us, you can get apps where you can have multiple people inside the same space, but you're going to be having multiple machines. But it's not too far off There's a lot of custom designed virtual reality systems where you can have multiple people inside a shared space. But having like a teacher walk another student through like like a Icelandic lava flow field, you can't really do that yet. But it's an advent horizon. Some other questions here? Come on, somebody on your side of the room's got to have something. Bunch of know-it-alls over here.
You talked about a lot of people that I know can't have to connect it up.
I would have to talk with Marnie. Marnie is out here. I'm doing the presentation. She's setting up our booth right now. So she would be the one to talk to. Yep. Yeah, we're in booth P16. So if you want to try it out, stop by until you get your black chip at our booth. You put on the headset and whatnot, and throw your name in there so we can harass you until you tell us to not call you again. Just kidding, we won't do that. So yeah, it's a great way to check it out and try it out. I think we have about 15 different apps on our machine right now. So if you wanted to try any of the cool ones, we got like the tilt brush and stuff like that on there. Google Earth. Google Earth we probably won't do just because it needs a wired internet connection. Yes.
How many demo stations do you have here?
How many demonstrations?
Demo stations.
Oh, you just have the one website here. Yeah. The good thing is like, I don't know, it seems like people like to have a decent time here at the show, so it won't be a problem getting people with some courage to come up and try it out. I was at a conference in Michigan, and like about the last hour of each day of the conference was when they brought like the beer cart in, and then it seemed like our line got a lot longer. You haven't been here before? No. This is my first time out at this conference, so it's really great to be out here and see all this. All right. Any other questions at all for any of the Spokane guys? All right. Yeah, thank you for coming out.